You guys aren't supposed to be out there. So it appears we have a broken wire here. Not exactly sure how this happened, but as a result, all of the cattle have gotten into the little field with Buddy and the Bismarck bull calf. It doesn't look like they've bent over any of the new posts that I put in, and honestly, I kind of wanted them to go through and graze this little field anyway because it was starting to get away from Buddy and the Bismarck bull. So first thing I need to do is just get this wire rolled up, get it out of here before somebody gets it wrapped around their leg. The reason that I didn't want Buddy and the Bismarck calf to go back in with the herd quite yet didn't have anything to do with worrying about the Bismarck bull breeding any of these cows. I think at this point, Rivet and Little Boy have pretty well taken care of that. I was more concerned about the idea that I don't think he's been weaned long enough to not go back to nursing on his mother. So we'll just kind of have to keep an eye on him. If he ends up doing that, then I could always stick him in the bullpen, or I mean, I could, I guess, just let him do it. Have you and Buddy had words yet? You look like a bull that's had words with somebody. See Buddy and Little Boy going at it over there. I've been kind of waiting and wondering what's going to happen when Buddy and Rivet go at it. And maybe that's already happened because they're not messing with each other at all. It's funny, I'd say half or more of the cows are going over there to where the gate used to be and walking through right there just because that's what they're used to doing. Some of them are walking through the post too, but most of them are going where the gate used to be. Kind of want to be mad about this, but honestly, it's my own fault. I should have had this fence done sooner. If this fence was done, this would not be an issue. You know, it is what it is. And the reason that the hot wire broke is because this is the spool that I had up inside the little field here pretty much all summer. And there was a time when I had it turned off because the cows were in the back and I didn't need it on, and what ended up happening is Buddy and the Bismarck calves figured out that it was off and they were chewing on it in spots, so it had a bunch of weak spots in it, and again, my fault. I'm thinking Rivet and Buddy must have already had it out because they seem pretty at peace with each other now. And that's not really normal unless they have already sorted all this out. So now we can get back to what we actually came down here to do, and that is move these cows down to the back pasture. Come on, you two. Buddy's gonna win. Well, that turned out to be a lot bigger job than I figured on it being, but the cattle are where they need to be now, so all is well. And while I'm down here at the barn, a lot of people have been asking about my Wasp bait, whether or not that's working. And honestly, I'm not really sure. I haven't really stopped and reevaluated this, so let's look at the bait bottle, see if they've taken any, and see if we can find any wasps buzzing around here. So here's the first one. Still a fair amount in there. There's another one. Oh yeah, it's a can. Can's still pretty full too. So I don't know how much they've actually taken. Watch out, Kelly. I don't know how much they've actually taken. And I do still see some buzzing around here, but honestly, I feel like it's not as much as there normally is. Let's go look over by the squeeze chute. Again, I know that it won't show on camera, but there's actually a bunch of them flying around here around the squeeze chute. And this little bait station that I set up, the quail waterer, is empty, but I'm not sure how much of that is from evaporation and how much of it is from wasps actually taking it out of there. This will be the true test here. Anybody home? Yeah, there's a few. So yes, there are some buzzing around, but I gotta tell you, I've been looking around here and I cannot find any active nests. So I'm not really sure what to make of this. I think it's showing signs of maybe it's working. I also think that I might want to try using apple juice as a bait rather than lemonade. Some people were saying that they thought they wouldn't like lemonade as much as apple juice, so hard to say on that. I think this shows enough promise to keep trying to do it, but not enough to say that it for sure works yet, but it might just take some more time too. Next, I wanted to give you guys a little update about our chickens and our predator issues that we were having, and I want to tell you about what I have learned and figured out since posting the last video. When I was editing the last video, I noticed that in the morning while I was feeding the pigs, there were 13 chickens in this pen. I was able to count them pretty easily because I had the footage right there in front of me. So what I could deduce from that is that the predator kill had to occur sometime between when I fed the pigs and when Bree left in the morning to go for a walk at around 9:30 in the morning. That's a pretty small window for that to happen and for us to not notice. Not to mention that whatever had killed and started eating a chicken was doing so right here on our front lawn, which we would have easily been able to see from our window. To make a long story short, I kept putting these pieces together and just none of it made sense. I just couldn't understand how this could have happened. So when I came out here the next morning to check the trap, which was empty, I counted these chickens again, and guess what? 13. So in fact, we did not have a predator loss out of this pen because all the chickens that I put out here still remain. So how did I come to count 12 on the morning where we figured this happened? Well, I think that they were just all bunched together, and in my mind I felt like there were gonna be 12, so I miscounted and didn't recount, and there you go. So if a predator did not take a chicken out of that pen, then what's the deal with all these feathers out here and parts? There was a wing. I mean, clearly a carcass was consumed out here on our lawn. How can that be? And as I got to thinking about it, I remembered that a couple weeks ago, one of our really old layer hens died, and I took it where I usually take them, which is way down past the shop over the fence, and I just throw them down there so that, you know, the critters can eat at them and that won't attract them towards our live birds. But apparently what happened is whatever found that dead chicken that I threw down there, brought it up here to the house, was probably eyeballing these ones. But I figured the electric net did its job and protected these birds, and whatever found that old dead chicken just decided to tear it up right here on our lawn. From all this, what I've learned is that I think upgrading the pen was smart. You know, it never hurts to have more voltage on your wire. But the idea that something climbed in here and got a chicken, that's not what happened. This is a relief. I was really, it felt good to realize that one of these hens did not get killed. In fact, that it was one of our old chickens that was already dead. That's the remains that we found out here on the lawn. But it does also tell me that we've got something out here that does like to eat chickens. And again, it knows where these guys are. A lot of people suspected that it was a chicken hawk that swooped in here and got one of these. And if this was like 15 years ago, I might say that, yeah, that probably could be what it is, because we used to see a lot of chicken hawks around here. But when I saw everybody suggesting that, it made me start thinking about it, and I have not seen a chicken hawk in years. I don't know what happened to them, because there used to be a lot. We do have Cooper's hawks, and I see them from time to time, even around the house here, and they are known to eat birds. In fact, I think that's what their entire diet is, but they are pretty small. I don't think they eat anything much bigger than like a dove or maybe a pigeon. A lot of people said, put a trail camera up out here and then you'll see what you've got. And to be honest with you, that was my first instinct as well. I was like, I'll put a camera out here and then we'll know what we're dealing with. But then I started thinking about it. Trail cameras are operated off of motion, and these chickens would just be setting that thing off literally all day long. You'd have hours and hours of footage that you had to comb through. In fact, you might just be better off putting a surveillance camera that just films all the time anyway. So I guess we had a false alarm, which in this case is good news. What's the deal here? That's why this has a pry mark on it. We're not off to a very good start here, are we? What the heck? Why won't this open? Cable. Alright, well, we'll add that to the list of things that need to be fixed. I honestly don't think that I will get this thing running today, but I would at least like to figure out what all it needs. And if I could get it to turn over, I feel like that would be a big victory, because I feel like once it's able to turn over, all it's going to need is fresh fuel and then it should fire. So basically I just want to start poking around this thing, see what all it's going to need, and see how far we can get with it. The first thing we'll do is test the battery, see if it's got any juice in it. Nothing. Battery is completely dead, which isn't a huge surprise, except for the fact that I know the guy I got the truck from charged it up the night before I picked it up, and he said it was holding a charge, but apparently it doesn't hold it for that long. So I've got another battery in here off of the Jubilee. We'll just use that today as a stand-in battery. No sparks. It's a good sign. So the new battery, about 12.5 volts. So let's see if we got lights, horn, anything electrical, just so we know that we're making a good connection here. That's the horn. Nothing. We do have lights. That's something. Okay. You know that I hear it making noises. Let's just see if it'll turn over. We're making progress. We've got lights in the dash, which we did not have before, and I can hear it's trying to do something. So the starter could be stuck. I'm gonna go down there and try to tap on it a little bit and just make sure all the wires are tight. I might go ahead and hook up another battery to this, you know, like jump it off on my truck or something, just to make sure that we've got enough voltage to turn it over, because it almost just feels like it's weak. So we'll try a couple things and see what happens. I know it seems like we're not accomplishing anything, but the more things that I try and troubleshoot, it's sort of leading me in the direction of what the problem is. And right now, everything is pointing to the starter either being froze or bad, or possibly just the starter solenoid. When I turn the key, I can hear a click down there. So I mean, we've got enough voltage. I hooked it up to my truck just to be double sure. The battery was testing at 14 volts when I had it hooked up to my truck while it was idling. So I don't think that's the issue. It's either the starter is bad or the motor is locked up, and let's hope that the starter's bad. What do we got in here? Well, here's our starter right there. I think we'll go ahead and get this thing pulled off and see if we can bench test it. And yeah, let's do that. Well, the battery died on the GoPro. What's new, right? Starter is out now, so we can go ahead and bench test this thing. And basically what that means, if you don't know, is we can put power to the starter motor and see if the Bendix pops out and spins and if everything sounds good and all that. There it went. Well, I think that was our problem. You noticed when I first tried to bench test the starter, it would not go. I could hear the solenoid clicking, and then after I smacked on it with the hammer a little bit, it seemed to free it up, and the Bendix works good. It spins fast. It doesn't sound great, I admit, but I think that if I put it back in the truck now, that it might actually attempt to start it. A part of me thinks just order a new starter and put it in there, because it's the exact same amount of labor as it's going to be to put this one back in, but I kind of want to just throw it back in there right now to see if this engine will turn over. All right, starter's back in. Let's see what happens. We're getting closer. Well, there you have it. She's turning over now. I think it's just a matter of time before this thing starts on its own. What I did notice though, while I was cranking it, I could really smell that smell of rotten gas. So I think the next step is gonna be to go through here. I'm probably gonna replace a lot of these fuel lines, the soft ones anyway. I'll just get a roll of fuel line and just kind of go through and replace all that stuff. I'll blow out the hard lines, and then we'll have to clean out the tank somehow. And yeah, I think once we get the fuel system all dialed in, cleaned out with some fresh fuel, I bet you this thing's gonna start. And I think a pressure washing is in order. This thing is disgusting. Wherever you reach your hands to work on something, you don't know if there's a black widow hiding out in there, or a wasp nest, or what it might be. But all that's gonna have to wait for another video. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys, and I hope I'll see you again on Farmer Tyler Ranch.